We start with this headline, what is consciousness? And particularly, how do we explain the consciousness is a cause for the variegatedness as well as diversity around us. In a sense, how consciousness is the basic building block of everything. Maharaj.
Okay, I'm thinking where to start. Basically, consciousness has two aspects. One, I'm conscious of the things around me. That's a very, obvious aspect of consciousness. We know what's happening, we know other people, we know the world around us. But at the same time, there is second aspect of consciousness. I'm conscious that I exist. I am consciousness. So these two aspects, they constitute consciousness and distinguish consciousness from the dead matter. Dead matter neither knows everything around it, neither is conscious about its own existence. So regarding this question, what is the cause of the variegatedness around us and how the consciousness is behind this variegatedness, it's actually the derivative of these two properties of consciousness. According to Vedic literature, the origin of everything is conscious. And conscious basically has these two aspects. He is consciousness, or he is self-conscious in this way, and he is also, capable of experiencing everything around him. So the variegatedness is the natural byproduct of consciousness, because consciousness is dynamic. Matter is static. Matter is not changing, but consciousness is ever dynamic, and this variegated consciousness is actually ultimately the cause of everything which exists according to Vedic literature.
So, in traditional popular view, the consciousness is formless, whereas matter is form. Matter has the form. But, in Bhagavad Gita, we understand the reverse, that the real form the consciousness has. Can you please shed some light that consciousness has the form, not the vice versa?
Well, let's say this is the premise, that the origin of everything is consciousness, because consciousness is by definition is higher than matter. The matter cannot be philosophically the origin of consciousness, because consciousness is higher than matter. Higher can produce something lower, lower cannot produce anything higher. That's the simple logic, simple understanding. Now, if everything which we see has some form, this form has to come from somewhere. According to Sankhya philosophy, there is this Satkaryavad. Satkaryavad means that the effect is present in the cause. If the cause of everything is consciousness and the form is the effect, then the form has to be in the consciousness. Otherwise, where it would come from? So consciousness cannot be formless by definition, because it's the original cause of all the forms. So as simple as this. So consciousness definitely must have a form.
Thank you, Maharaj. There is this point of discussion that after all we experience, and through experience we understand everything. Mm-hmm. And through experience only we can understand both matter and consciousness. Mm-hmm. Now Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that which pervades the entire body is consciousness. Mm-hmm. And is indestructible. Mm-hmm. And we experience many things, but they're all destructible. So how do we understand this proposition of Krishna that consciousness pervades the body and it is indestructible?
First of all, let's try to understand how consciousness pervades the body. There should be very clear scientific mechanism of the spreading of the consciousness. So there are several ideas about it, or several analogies which help us to understand how it happens. One analogy is, of course, the sun and the sunlight. Sun is localized, sun is in one place, but the sunlight is spread all over the place. In a similar way, there is a soul which is the source of consciousness, which is non-material, which is the experiencer or witness, sakshi, and it spreads the consciousness all over the body. Now, the mechanism of it is very interesting and very important for us from scientific point of view to understand. It's actually explained in this Mundaka Upanishad in very famous quote, how the soul is the source of consciousness. Next to the soul is mind. Mind is very subtle, and because of its subtle nature, it kind of envelops the soul, and the soul invests its energy into the mind. So original number one step is from the soul, conscious energy is put in the mind. The comparison is there that, when we see the moon and there is a very, translucent cloud around the moon, then it appears to us that this cloud emanating the light. Actually, cloud doesn't emanate any light. The light is coming from the moon, but because the cloud is next to the moon, it seems like that the cloud is also emanating the mind. In a similar way, our mind is actually matter, but very subtle matter. Because it's so subtle, it comes close to the consciousness, to the source of consciousness, and it seems like the mind becomes alive. So now, next level from the mind is in the sattva gun. And it's very calm and harmonious and translucent. That's the characteristics of sattva gun. Then the next level is rajagun, and rajagun, prana is in rajagun. So from mind, the energy of consciousness is coming to prana. The soul is there in the heart. Next to the soul is the mind or chitta. And the chitta is pervaded by prana. This is what is explained in this quote from Mundaka Upanishad, which is there in the 17th verse of the second canto of Bhagavad Gita, in the commentary of it. Then the prana, which is little grosser energy, is energized by the energy of consciousness through the mind, and the prana starts moving and distributing the energy of consciousness all over the body. We know all these pranic channels, 72,000 of channels which are coming from the heart because the soul is there in the heart. And by the way, when somebody asks you, who you are, you don't put your finger on your head. You put your finger in the heart. This is me. This is the I particle is there in the heart. It spreads the consciousness through prana, and prana influences fire, electricity. So all the electrical processes or all the energetic processes are ignited in the body by prana. So in this way, the prana becomes, enlivens the body and starts all the, biological processes in the body. And in this way, the body becomes alive and conscious. That's how this consciousness is spreaded.
So Maharaj, you brought in the idea of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if you look at the bodily configuration in which the soul is encased, not only soul is encased, but that bodily configuration is also deriving its energy from the soul. So the first question, because I have two questions here, but let me ask the first question. First question is that this soul, which is superior and superior to material energy, yet it is encased by this very material energy. How is it possible? How a superior energy or Chit Shakti is being encased or covered by Jada Shakti or the material energy or inferior energy?
The explanation is simple. Yes, superior energy is superior than matter. But because of its minutest quality, because the particle of consciousness is very small, it's more or less overwhelmed by the lower energy. And this, and basically, the reason why it could be overwhelmed by lower energy is that we really want to identify with the matter. We want to have material experiences. We want to experience matter. We want to enjoy the matter. The experience matter means enjoy the matter, lord it over the matter, and therefore we have to have some sort of identification with the matter. And by identifying, this desire to be identified with the matter is fulfilled by material energy. Ultimately, we are superior because we have the power of desire. But, because we desire to be conditioned or covered by matter, we are covered by matter.
But by constitution, this tiny unit of consciousness, which is part and parcel of Supreme Brahman, cannot have proprietorship of the matter because it doesn't own matter. But still, it appears that it is having a proprietorship over this material energy.
Yeah, because, material energy belongs to God, no doubt about it. But, because we want to lord it over material nature, Lord gives us some sort of illusory proprietorship. Ultimately, nothing belongs to us. Even this body is not ours. It can be taken from the soul at any moment. But, God is lending to us this matter to get the experience and to get frustrated from this experience, ultimately, because it's false. The initial premise is false. When we claim proprietorship over anything in this world, it's false. It's a false claim. And ultimately, we will be convicted as...
So that means one can argue that as the Krishna is super soul or the Param Brahman is super soul, is making it happen that we become captivated by material energy.
The initiative is coming from us. The desire, the original desire is coming from us. And it's not Krishna is making us, experiencing this material nature. We do want to establish our superiority over material nature. We want to establish that I'm unique, I'm the best, I'm the Lord of my survey. And Lord says, yeah, go on, try, and let's see what happens. And actually, even in this world, the only people who are successful is those people who develop some service attitude, because service is the natural propensity of the soul. But we have this unnatural propensity, which is also natural in one sense. We want to lord it over and we want to serve. So these two tendencies are there. And Lord says, okay, here is the field where you can you can experience or you can execute, express your desire to lord it over, but also, at the same time learn how service is much more natural and pleasurable.
So basically, what we discussed until now from Maharaj, we understood that consciousness, which is superior to material energy, when it desires to become the Lord but not the servant, gets captivated by the material energy. And hence it gets encased by an inferior energy, although it is superior. So now the question here is, this consciousness which is the very basis of cognition in every varieties of life forms, is a fundamental entity. That means irreducible. This. Whereas, current science is trying to understand cognition as an emergence of molecular and cellular combinations and so forth. We will not go into the current paradigm because that people know, but that has not really yielded any result because we have not created any system that is intrinsically cognitive and can give rise to other cognitive agents. So that has not happened, but we see in nature that if we sow a seed, within the seed there is a cognitive element, and hence through the help of the soil and other favorite atmosphere, we see whether it is a plant or from the similar seed gives rise to, in the form of egg, to birds and other things. Same seed in the form of semen gives rise to human being. So we see that life forms are coming from the original cognitive elements. So now if you look at the Vedantic perspective, which we are discussing now, how can we have some kind of understanding of this eternal, innate cognitive element that always existing, which we cannot really experience using by any material means, but still some empiric study can help us to understand this very truth because of which the world is the way it looks. What kind of empiric study we should conduct or we should pursue?
So let me start by saying that the original means which is suggested by Vedic literature is purely subjective and therefore are not very appreciated by the material science, which is claiming to be objective. But nevertheless, for the study of the consciousness, the best instrument is consciousness itself. Because at best we can hope that, that we will get some glimpse or some reflection of consciousness by empirical means. So the bona fide, the proper instrument for studying the consciousness is consciousness itself. In our case, it's meditation. Yoga is a science. There is no doubt about it. It's a very developed science, and this is the science of meditation, which is a scientific process of systematically calming the mind, and by the calming of the mind, you will be able to see your own reflection. As much as if you are standing next to the lake and the lake is very calm, you can see the reflection. If the lake is very turbulent, then you cannot see any reflections. So our mind at this moment is very turbulent, therefore you at best have some slight intuition of you as a consciousness, as a particle of consciousness. We all kind of understand that I'm eternal, I will not die, body changes, I don't change. So some idea we do have intuitively. So the proper means of studying the consciousness is meditation. When the mind is completely calm, and then you can see very clearly yourself and the world around you. Your cognition will become very scientific, very pure. Now, in regard to empirical methods of studying of consciousness, there is plenty of this. First of all, if we understand, and this is the initial premise, that consciousness is higher than the matter, which we basically experience every millisecond of our life, that the consciousness is the main element, not the matter. Matter is secondary. So we have to. Then the next logical conclusion is that consciousness can influence matter, which is against the physical laws, because anything outside of matter cannot really move the matter. So there is a lot of different data which shows how consciousness can move the matter or can influence matter. I already quoted this, placebo effect. Placebo effect, you have something completely, some strange idea, even wrong idea in your mind. Somebody gives you a little white, tablet or whatever, pill, which is totally useless. You believe in it, and this act of taking this tablet makes you cured. It means that your mind is curing your body. It means that some ideas in your mind are making tangible changes within the chemistry of your body. If everything is chemical, then you can only influence chemistry by adding some other chemicals, right? But here we have mind, which is not chemical, which changes the chemistry, completely changes the chemistry. So that's one obvious empirical proof that there is something beyond the matter which influences the matter, which is over the matter. Then there is so many other experiments, like, people sit here, and there is something going on with the matter. Let's say somebody is whirling the coin, and then you sit and you meditate that this one side of the coin should come more often. And it happens. It's a statistical result, but it's a tangible statistical, small but tangible statistical change. You're sitting there, you have consciousness, and there is some process, completely mechanical process, which is going on, some whatever, accidental process. And then you, by sitting there and watching this process, influencing this process, without touching it, without getting involved in it, completely from outside.
You are referring to the Professor Jan's experiment?
Yeah, there are so many different, experiments which shows this sort of. It's a small effect, but it's statistically valid effect. It's statistically proven that there is an effect of consciousness on the mechanical processes of matter. So that's another example of how empirically we can understand. Then there is a huge field of near-death experiences when there is a dead body, and then there is supposedly some consciousness which is seeing what is going on in the dead body around it, and comes back into the dead body becomes alive and tells, that's what I saw. And it's again empirically proven facts. So, in other words, we can tangibly see the effect of consciousness when we measure the effect of consciousness on matter, which is not supposed to take place if consciousness is epiphenomenon or emergent quality of matter.
So Maharaj, you gave many nice direction here that yoga and meditation is one way we can do some empiric studies, placebo effect, near-death experience. We are also doing research. Professor Chain Nandi is here? Yeah. So we are working on looking at biological switch that blocks our consciousness when administered with anesthesia.
Okay.
So here you made a very nice point in the beginning that it is the soul that energizes or empowers the mind, and mind in turns.
Mind is intertwined with prana.
Yeah, and then it energizes the prana. So, and you said there are 72,000 channels of prana in the body that flows from the heart.
From Purita.
Yeah, from the heart. So, can you shed some light that because we are doing this research, how can we empirically study these pranic channels? How do they manifest in the body? How can we empirically study these pranic channels so that we can have some idea how consciousness is pervading through the body?
According to my understanding, there is the nervous system, which is well established, and nervous system has tangible material substratum. And pranic channels are somewhat parallel, or it's not exactly the same nervous system, but it's definitely connected with the nervous system, because nerves, it's already electricity. As I said, there is mind, from mind prana, from prana then there is electricity. So nerves is these conductors which which work on the energy of electricity, but then closely to it connected is this pranic channels, which are identified by this acupuncture and all this kind of methods, Chi energy, which is the same as prana, which is there. So anesthesia, like there are certain points of the body by pressing this point you can make your unconscious, because you disconnect prana from its source, from the consciousness, temporarily disconnect. So I guess all this idea, these certain points, these marmas, which are there, which is also explained in yoga, these sensitive marmas or points, it's exactly the points where the switches are, basically. So
does it work by the principle of touch? That means the prana and the nervous system, they exchange this information through touch?
Probably, yeah. I'm not so expert. I'm just brainstorming.
Because the very idea of empiric study means we have to look at how the information from the soul gets transmitted throughout the body through different layers. I know that you are already aware of these 4 categories of sound by which the communication that takes place, like between soul and super soul, we say para sabda,
Para pasyanti,
and then pashyanti between soul and the chitta, and from chitta or mind to the gross body is madhyama, and then the outer sound is which is airborne is vaikhari. So basically I'm trying to understand from you that how we can look at this pranic level of energy getting transmitted to either nervous system or any cellular aspect of our bodily composition.
I mean, it requires more thought. I'm not prepared to exactly answer this question. I would be happy to discuss it in more details, how it could be done. One idea which comes immediately into mind, since you mentioned the sound is a certain vibration which has a certain form, shape. And ultimately, the traditional way of influencing the flow of prana is either by making some, certain shape or change in your breathing, or through the sound of mantra. When you vibrate sound of mantra, then this vibration of the sound of mantra, which is very subtle, influences prana, and then the prana influences the grosser processes within the body, like this nervous electric system. So one venue of investigation could be how the sound influences the nervous system. And we know this, that, sometimes people can be hypnotized by sound, or, the state of consciousness could be altered by producing certain sounds. That's at least one idea which comes immediately into the mind. But that's a very interesting question, how this transmission is coming, how the transmission of conscious energy is coming to the mind, how it's coming from the mind to prana, how it's coming from prana to
different
to the electricity.
Yeah.
And electricity,
Yeah.
of course, that we know, because it's something which is
Right.
easily experienced, measurable.
Yeah.
So, sound is definitely key. Is definitely a very important key which can alter or regulate these movements of prana.
So one of the hypotheses,
and especially, when yogis, when they do pranayam, they oftentimes they couple pranayam or combine pranayam with chanting of Om. And then this Om, chanting of this vibration of Om sound, influencing pranayam, and then pranayam is, and then this vibration is purifying the grosser levels of our being.
Right. So one of the hypotheses here, Maharaj, is that this sound, where it is airborne and audible, its frequency has a certain limited.
Yes.
And when we go subtle and subtle, the energy becomes subtler and subtler. This frequency increases. And currently, we had a professor who visited here, and he's Stuart Hamroff. He stayed here for 15 days, gave some classes. So he was talking about that the microtubules which are there, they are providing. Microtubules are there in the brain, they're there in the cell, and particularly the nervous system microtubules. There are experiments where they are able to demonstrate the frequencies at the level of giga, even going beyond that. Very high frequencies there. So do you think that that we can talk about more subtler elements, means the frequency is higher level?
Higher. Absolutely, yeah. Because even the chakras, which correspond to the nervous knots in our body, nervous centers in our body. Chakras is not the same as the nervous centers, but the projection of the chakras is in the nervous system. They have different frequency, right? And therefore, these different frequencies are not symbolized, but they're produced certain mantras. Every chakra has certain bija mantra, like lam, yam, ram, and so on and so forth, according to the chakra system. So, and I guess we need an experienced yogi who can produce this
Such
sound
vibration.
in a very pure way, and see the effects of this sound, gross effects on the sound, on the visible body, on the material body, how this, especially with these bija mantras, which are the most efficient and effective mantra, which supposedly have also some area in the brain. Every bija mantra has some effect on the body, but it activates certain center in the brain. So one venue of investigation could be how different mantras could activate different areas of the brain, and then from this, switches produce certain effects in the body. You have the mantra is coming to the brain is giving signal, and everything is changing.
So this is a question that I have always asked many empiric scientists, that if you look at, because current science thinks, when we talk about consciousness, they only dwell with the nervous system. But our nervous system doesn't go beyond 100 hertz. 100 hertz, that's all. So even if you look at even EEG signal, you don't go beyond 100 hertz. All these, your alpha, theta, gamma, all these bands are within this 100 hertz. So when we talk about this high frequency thing, that means we have to go beyond nervous system. And not only we have to go beyond nervous system, in a current paradigm, within the science, we are trying to look at, or we are trying to, if we look at the sound information, we look at the information, sound information in airborne. So again, the most of the information that is there within the body probably is getting filtered when it comes to the airborne. And we need to find out varieties of biological switches within the body in a very subtle way, where these frequencies are often triggered. And in particularly, those who are yogi, those who are in deep meditation, those who are in cognitively in an enhanced stage, probably we need to find a ways how to collect signals from such personalities. What do you think about doing an empirical studies on a yogi? If we make such a yogi to agree and collecting the signals, and even we don't know how we can collect such signal, because we have to get, of course, there has to be some biosignal that must be representative of the consciousness at the purest level in some form. So do you have any suggestion in this regard?
I think the pioneer in this kind of study was Swami Ram from Rishikesh, and I think they're still doing this. They had a lab there, and they were trying to do these experiments. He himself was, he was a yogi, and he was manipulating from the mind, he was changing the different parameters of the body, and they're doing something like this. I don't know how advanced they are in this regard. I think now it goes little down. But I certainly would be very intrigued and happy if a yogi would agree to such an experiment. Although I don't know what would be the reason for him to agree to such an experiment. But you can make your own yogis here and make them. But it's definitely very, very fascinating area of study. Definitely. We should think more about it.
Okay. So now we talked some of the empiric studies that we can do to probably decipher some idea of consciousness, which normally the pure yogis, they experience in and out, day in, day out. There is no doubt about it, because there are many still in India and all over the world who really experience the consciousness, qua consciousness. But we have to give this experience in some form to others, such that they can also be attracted to this aspect of reality, and which is a very fundamental aspect of reality. So given this, I think that we discussed varieties of things from you, and you gave many ways where we can probably look at it. But from our perspective, this pranic channels, we need to be very clear. And where is Bodhi? Bodhi is here? Bodhi is not here, probably. And where is that the other girl? So your team is not here. So I think that we need to look at these things very systematically to understand that how the meaningful information, the information that moves the matter, gets transmitted through the bodily system, through varieties of layers from subtle to gross. So now, Maharaj, I will come back to a kind of a little less serious discussion for the benefit of our audience. Given this, we are talking about consciousness. Normally, when we explain people that this doesn't experience, but we experience. But we have experience. This doesn't have experience. So this is called bodily experience. And how can we, or what are the configuration of body through yoga and meditation, such that through this bodily experience, people, through simple practice, we don't have to do empirical studies, but through simple practice, they can have access to this pure level of consciousness. Basically, what I'm trying to tell is that the human body has the ability to experience both the bodily experience as well as divine experience. So how do we act or we change the bodily configuration such that through experience we can have access to this consciousness, qua consciousness?
There is a very wide variety of spiritual experiences. It's such a vast area. And according to the Bhagavata philosophy, the kind of spiritual experience which you get is very much dependent on the method which you are using. And that's the difference because, in the modern science, in the normal science, if you measure something, it's not dependent on the method, so to speak. But in spiritual experience, the method determines the experience which you have. So that we have to know. And basically, there is only three kinds of methods. Of course, in each and every area there is variety of different methods, but if we grossly divide the spiritual methodology, then it can be divided into three spheres. One is called Jnana Yoga, whose main method of experiencing consciousness is meditation. Meditation, vibration of a certain mantras, or also In Jnana Yoga, one very important element of having spiritual experience is what is called paschatap. Or anutap, when you regret something, and in this way you purify your consciousness. So the second area of methodology, or second set of methods, is developed by mystical yoga or Ashtanga yoga, and the third area is Bhakti yoga. So these three things have their unique methodology. And depending on what kind of spiritual experience you want, what kind of depth of spiritual experience you want, you adopt either this methodology, that methodology, or that methodology. And according to the Bhagavata philosophy, by the methodology of Jnana Yoga, you can experience your oneness with the existence. You can just more or less understand that you're one with the existence, and feel the unity of the world, and you as the part of this unity, not as a separate particle. The Ashtanga yoga or yoga methodology allows you at best to understand the presence of God and His particular form within the heart when you meditate. And ultimately, Bhakti methodology allows you to get access to or experience of God in His personal form, in His form of Bhagavan. So, as I said, there are three big areas with their methods. And again, depending what you want, you take this and you follow this systematically. But to get the tangible spiritual experience, not just some imaginary spiritual experience, you have to follow certain discipline. That's first and most important thing. This is defined by Patanjali Muni in Yoga Sutra, that abhyas, the practice, has to have three characteristics. It has to be for a long time, it has to be uninterrupted, and it has to be done with a certain mood of reverence. It has to be done consciously, not mechanically. That's what it is. So everyone can have spiritual experience. For that, practice discipline is necessary for a long time, uninterrupted, and not mechanical. Now, if we take methodology, as I said, the main methodology of Gyan is basically meditation, studying of scriptures, meditating on certain mantras which from the Vedas or Upanishads, which define the unity of existence. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So that's the methodology. With subsidiary methods of purification, self-purification, atonement, this and that. Then there is methodology of yoga, which is very well defined, starting from yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, and so on and so forth, coming to samadhi. That you should follow this discipline. And then there is Bhakti Yoga, which starts with Sharanagati, surrender. And it basically means, that's in one sense simple process. At the same time, it has its own difficulties because it starts with surrender. I'm not independent anymore. I surrender my independence. So this act of surrendering myself, I'm the part of God, I'm subservient to Him, I'm ultimately by my nature as His servant, starts with, adopting certain rules and regulations in my life. I'm not doing what I want to do, but I'm doing what He wants me to do. So that's in itself is an austerity. But, we follow certain rules, like we're not eating meat, we're not, gambling, we're not taking any drugs in any shape or form, don't take any, even onion and garlic, anything which agitates your mind, which actually makes your mind more tamasic. And even these simple practices can give you some, if not purely spiritual existence, but quasi-spiritual existence, because you immediately, after Sharanagati, you feel relief. You feel relief from the, pressure of karma, which we may not even experience. But after coming to, bhakti path and chanting mantras and doing this process, we immediately feel difference in our life. We feel much lighter in certain things. And then, mantra meditation or chanting of name of God, which is the main methodology of bhakti yoga, gives you the most profound experience. At one point you understand this mantra is not just a sound. Like I started chanting mantra when I was doing my experiments in a laboratory. And I said, this is a pure experiment. I'm not going to chant this mumble jumble thing if I get tired of it. And I started chanting, and I didn't get tired 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And 40 years later, I'm still chanting. So I could experience that there is some difference. And then there was some, again, quasi-mystical experience. I was doing some very difficult experiment in molecular biology. You have to do it in a very exact way. It's a very difficult procedure. And the experiment usually would take, 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes, from the beginning till end. And then at the very end, you develop your film, photo film, and you realize that it failed somehow or other, somewhere in between. In between, you're blind. You don't know what's going on. You're trying to see what's going on in the DNA and how DNA interacts with the proteins and, what's going on. So you want to see something tangible, you put some radioactivity there. Anyway, you develop the film and, you don't see anything informative. So I was doing it again and again and again. I don't remember how many times, at least 50 times. It was so difficult and I was so tired. And ultimately I started chanting mantra, and then, I decided, let me chant mantra with this idea. Let this experiment will be successful. So I was chanting very intently with such a intense meditation. So I did this experiment and it was successful. It was a spiritual experience in my own case. Ultimately my thesis was based on this successful experiment, which was based on a spiritual experiment, which I was doing with myself by chanting mantra. So that was the... But in any case, if you ask how to get spiritual experience, yes, there are 3 particular methodologies, which should not be mixed ideally, and should be done under guidance.
So Maharaj, you have been practicing 43 years of Bhagavad Gita philosophy as taught by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Prabhupada. So the basic heart of this practice is that there is the Supreme Person who is also Supreme Brahman, who includes everything that exists, but simultaneously he is every aspect of himself is separately conscious. That means we have the whole is conscious of everything that the whole includes. Plus, each unit also is separately conscious. So this is the basic premise in which in which we practice, and you have been practicing. So how do you see this particular premise is more holistic than the other premise that you talked about, whether it is Astanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga. How will you explain this to the layperson who would be listening to this conversation?
The general explanation which is given is that, we're all trying to understand the truth. Science is trying to understand the truth. Spiritual people are trying to understand the truth. But ultimately, everyone is a seeker. Every human being by nature wants to know the truth. And there are different levels of closeness to the truth. And there are different levels of or extents of completeness of the conception of the truth. So when we come to the spiritual science, this indeterminate, pure consciousness, formless, pure consciousness, is just the very first level of approaching the spiritual truth behind this variegated reality, because it is very indeterminate. Actually, how the main philosopher of our school, Srila Jiva Goswami, explains it, he says that the experience of Brahman, which is, the experience of unity, formless unity, pure consciousness, devoid of any upadhi, any designations, this experience is compared with Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha. Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha is a very particular pratyaksha, or particular experience, which is explained in Nyaya Shastra and in where it is also in Sankhya, I believe, which is, that something exists, but you don't know any qualities of this what exists. Like at the very first moment when we look at something, we know there is something, but it's indeterminate, it's nirvikalpa. We just know that it exists, but we don't know what it is, and we cannot say anything about it. That's basically Brahman, which is explained in some Upanishads or some experiences of yogis. There is spirit, but we cannot say anything about it. We cannot even say that it exists, because by saying it exists, we attribute some qualities to it. So therefore they say that this is, it's just neti. It's not that, it's not that, it's not that. You can only define it negatively. The negative definition of spirit is there in Upanishads, but that's Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha. It's a very first moment of perception of the first initial experience which we have. Immediately after that, the Savikalpa Pratyaksha comes. It means that we determine the quality. We see this is something black, this is something standing, it must be some camera. If you saw camera before. So immediately you have some qualities. So when Vishesh is there, first is Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha without Vishesh, Nirvishesh. Therefore, even people who have this experience, they say Nirvishesh. Nothing, no Vishesh, no qualities in it. So that's the very first stage, which is not very exciting. So if you come closer, then you can see the general shape, you can see the general qualifications of this object which you want to study. We want to study the truth. The first perception of the truth is there. I know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. The next stage is, yes, I know there is this truth, and this truth is guiding me. It's within my heart. It's the guiding force. I'm looking back at my life and I see that my life is not accidental. There is certain intelligence behind it, and it's not my intelligence. I was guided throughout my life, and there are so many things which are, which cannot be explained rationally by just accident. And I can see certain qualities of this personality behind it. He's powerful. He's ruling everything. He's controlling everything. So that's more or less the next stage of realization when you understand God, who is immanent to this world, who is guiding this world, who is guiding the movements of the matter, who is the controller of this world. As Krishna says in 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dyakshena Prakritik Suyate Sachara Chara, I'm there. And then, when you go even closer, you can see the state. And the state is moving, everything is going on. So first you see it's some impersonal thing is ruling. Then you understand there is personification of rule. Then you understand that there is Narendra Modi who is in charge of it. But then, if you come closer, you can understand Narendra Modi is a very nice person. He is very kind. He has a very big heart. He's very austere, this and that. So that's the third realization of Bhagavan, which can only be achieved by the methods of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhagavan includes everything else, and it gives you much more full and complete understanding of the truth with his personal features. So one is just impersonal thing without any features. Another one is majestic features, very powerful features ruling the world. And another one is very kind and sweet features of the absolute truth, which is the origin of everything. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for love. We're looking for beauty. We're looking for joy. We're looking for this. And that's what Bhagavan is. So why should you go there if you can go here?
Thank you. Maharaj, now I have only two last questions.
Okay.
So last but one is, you said that in science, also we only study experience. Mm-hmm. We study data. But we kill the experiencer. We have no idea who is the experiencer. Nor we care also about who is this experiencer. Mm-hmm. Now, I personally believe that time has come where even in empiric study, the both experience and experiencer must be included. Mm-hmm. So how do you think this paradigm is it a right direction, or if it is right, then how we should go about it?
It's with quantum physics, it's becoming more and more pertinent and more prominent approach that you cannot exclude the experiencer from the experience, because experiencer determines what you experience. You cannot be 100% objective. You have to include the subject into the equation. You have to include the consciousness into equation. So it's basically inevitable, and it's coming there. It's definitely coming there, that the consciousness is the background of everything, is the substratum of everything. That's quantum physics comes very close to this idea, that the substratum of everything is conscious, and therefore observer is also, part of the whole equation. You can only understand reality if you include the observer into the reality, into the picture of reality. Otherwise, the picture is not complete.
Thank you, Maharaj. So I come to the last question, is that, going through this 43 years of experience of practicing a methodology which is absolutely alien to Russian land, and going through it, how do you look at your 43 years of journey and what advice you will have for all those who would be hearing this discussion.
I mean, this 43 years of experience were very rewarding because it was an exciting journey where I understood a lot of things externally, which were, as you said, were completely foreign to my upbringing and my understanding of reality, which enhanced my understanding of the laws of reality. It made me much more capable of controlling the body, controlling the mind. So, people, especially in the old age, they have this feeling of being victim. This victim mentality is very, very prevalent in the material world, especially nowadays. People think that they're victim of circumstances, they're victim of political system, they're victim of that person, this person, of my, at least I don't feel I'm a victim. I feel very confident that I lived life which had some goal and has some goal. I don't claim that I achieved a high goal which is there. It was conscious life. Looking back, I see that how before that my life was much more mechanical, much more much more dreamlike. I was not really aware. I was doing something by the inertia, by this, by the motion. Everything was set in motion by somebody, and I was definitely before I was feeling like a victim. There is some flow, and I'm just, carried by this flow. But now I'm feeling like I'm swimming in this current, and I know where to come. And it's not that just some current is dragging me somewhere. So I never regret it. I'm actually immensely happy that I made this choice some time back. And, as I explained in my other lectures, somebody helped me to make this choice by pushing me into this direction. So I'm very happy. It was a very rewarding experience. And I'm still looking forward into some other gifts which are there. And, what can I advise others? I can only advise follow my footsteps. It's not very humble to do it, but that's what I do. Because otherwise, this there is a great chance that at the end of your life you will feel that you were victimized by by the circumstances or by life or by some unfortunate events, and you don't understand what's going on. If you want to be really in control of your life, then you have to surrender to God and make Him the controller of your life. Exactly like in this Bhagavad Gita, as Arjuna made Krishna his guide and chariot driver of his life. So that's my natural advice. What else can I advise?
Thank you, Maharaj. We learned through this discussion many wonderful things. First, we learned what is consciousness and what are the ways we can appreciate this consciousness through empiric studies as well. You also very nicely explained 3 different methodologies by which we can have divine experience. You also explained the ultimate form of the reality that we the way it is holistic in the sense the Bhakti Yoga import, Jnana Yoga import, and Ashtanga Yoga import. And as you nicely summarized at the end, is that you had a rewarding journey of 43 years, and you would like all of us also to become a seeker like you. I think that all of you would agree that it would be always beneficial to become a seeker, and of course, this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is, can become an inseparable aspect of our life. So Maharaj, thank you so much. I think while you gave all these answers, I was experiencing your humility is really radiating through your answers. And I'm again grateful for being here and answering our queries. And I hope that many will appreciate from the deep wisdom that Maharaj has said in front of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.